So we're talking about relative frequency graphs. And learning target 1 for this unit is going to go along with section 10.1 in the book. And that learning target is create and interpret relative frequency graphs. So we're just going to start by defining what a relative frequency graph is. And it's pretty similar to things you've seen before. We're going to work mostly with bar graphs, but you can also do like a pie graph. But a relative frequency graph compares the number in a category to the total. And a lot of times, then that will be written as a percent. Okay, so if you're comparing the total number of something or the number of a certain category to the total, you can write that then as a percent, and a lot of times it'll be shown in a relative frequency graph as a percent. Okay, so you'll see that with this first example. In this first example, Randy has been asked to create a graphical display showing the distribution of the library's collection in 6 categories. His boss asked him to create a relative frequency graph. So here's the data. Here are all the different types of books as well as how many there are. And then here is the total. So if we're going to create a relative frequency graph, the first thing we need to do is find out how frequent each one of these categories occurs compared to the total. So the frequency of each category compared to the total. In this case, we're looking at how many books of each type are there compared to the total number of books. The way we can do this is just write each one of these as a percent by first writing it as a decimal. So if we do for children's fiction, 35,994 divided by the total 199,659. That as a decimal is about 0.18. We'll just round it to there. So as a percent then it's 18%. So if I go down here to children's fiction, I'm just going to draw a little bar up here to where it's about 18%, right about there. And that's how you can start to make your relative frequency graph. So for each one of these, you just need to find this as a percent. That tells you the frequency of how often each type of book occurs compared to the total. So 18%, about 18% of the books in the library are children's fiction books. Okay, so the video is just going to skip ahead because I don't think you need to see every single calculation. So it's just going to skip ahead. That's just one example of how to do the relative frequency and find the percent. So now it's just going to pause and skip ahead, and you can see the final relative frequency graph. So there is the rest of what that relative frequency table looks like. What you can use those for is to kind of make predictions then. Like if you were to, in the rest of this example, say what are the chances that the book, if you just choose a random book from the library, what are the chances it's adult fiction? Okay, then you know 24% of the library is adult fiction, so the chances that you would just randomly pull a adult fiction book are 24%. Okay, same with media. So 9.8% of the library is media, so that would be your probability of pulling something media just randomly. Any children's book, we've got children's fiction and nonfiction, so if we add those up together, then we get 32% of the library is children's books. And then any type of book, so if we're looking at media and other together, those are the only two things that aren't books, and they total 12.7%. So that means that the other 87.3% is all books. Okay, so that's how you can use those to talk probability. So before class, you've got this problem. Chloe bought a small package of candies described, ignore that part, and counted the number of each color. Her count is shown in the table below. Construct a relative frequency bar graph for Chloe's package of candies. So using this information right here, just a hint, first you'll need to find the total number of candy so that you can find the relative frequencies of each one.